John 8:11. Did Jesus straightened at upstairs woman? What are the ones who accuse you? Has no one condemned you? She answering, no one, Lord. And Jesus said to her, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. Hello, my name is Marco Antonio, and we are on the 30 of the reading of Human Hold to Human by Friedrich Nietzsche. Let's go. Degree of moral inflammability unknown whether or not our passion reach the point of red heat and guide our whole life depends on whether or not we have been exposed to certain shocking, sad thing or impression. For example, a father falsely executed, killed, or tortured. Unfaithful wife, a cruel ambush by an enemy. No one knows how far circumstances, pity, or indignation may drive him. He does not know the degree of his inflammability. Miserable mean condition make one miserable. It is usually not the quality of the experiences, but rather the quantity but that determines the lower and the higher man in good and in evil. The martyr against his will. In one party there was a man who was too anxious and cowardly ever contradict his comrade. They used he for every service. They demanded everything of Jean because he was more afraid of the bad opinions of his companions than of death itself. He was a miserable, weak soul. They recognize this, and on the basis of those qualities they made him feared into a hero and finally into a martyr, although the cowardly man always said no inwardly. He always said yes with his lips, even on the scaffold when he died for views of his party. Everyday rule of thumbs: one will seldom go wrong. True attribute: strict and shock to vanity. Moderns want to have it, and petty want to fear. Misunderstanding about virtue: the man who has come to know vice in connection with pleasure imagines that virtue must be associated with displeasure. On the other hand, the man who has been gravely plagued by his passion and vices longs to find peace and his soul's happiness in virtue. The ascetic means a necessity of virtue. The honor of the person applied to the cause we universally honor, act of love and sacrifice for the sake of one's neighbor wherever we find the ambition as surrogate for moral sense. Any character lacking in ambition moves nobly without a moral sense. Vanity enriches how poor the human spirit without vanity intent is like a warehouse replenished and forever replenished its stock. The old man and dead one may well ask why, aside from the demands of religion, it is more praiseworthy for a man grown old to weigh his slow exhaustion and disintegration rather than to put a term to his life with complete consciousness. Okay. Next, misunderstanding between the sufferer and the perpetrator. With a rich man takes a possession from a poor man. For example, when a prince robs a plebeian of his sweetheart, the poor man misunderstands. He thinks that the rich man must be a villain to take from him the little he has. But the rich man does not fulfill the value of a particular possession, so deeply because he is accustomed to have it many, so he cannot put himself in the place of the poor man. He has by no means do it as great and injustice as the poor man builds. Each has a false idea of the other. The injustice of the mighty which embraces enrages and most in history is by no means as great as he appeared. Simply the inherited feeling of being a higher being with higher pretension make one rather goals and leaves the cultures and peers. Indeed, none of us feels anything like injustice when there is a great difference between ourselves and some other being, and we kill can, for example, without any twitch of conscience. So it is no sign of weakness is xerxes one even all of one would even all the Greek portrayals exceptionally noble when he take a son from his father and has him come to pieces because the father has imprinted an anxious and doubtful distrust of their entire campaign. In this case, the individual man is eliminated like an unpleasant insect. He stops to love, to be allowed to get on, arousing bothersome feelings in the world ruler. Indeed, no cruel man is cruel to the extent that the mistreated man believes the idea of pain is not the same as the suffering of Eve. It is the same with an unhappy with a journalist who mislead public opinion by little dishonesties. In each of these cases, cause and effect are inspired in quite different categories of thought and feelings. Nevertheless, it is automatically assumes that the perpetrator and sufferer think and feel the same, and the guilt of the one is therefore measured by the pain of the other. Limit of human love. Any man who has once declared the other man to be a fool, a bad fellow, is annoyed when that man is by showing that he is not. Morality learn more how much pleasure we get from morality, yet think what a river of agreeable tears has flowed up a tale of noble generals and shows. This one of lies delight will vanish away if the belief in gambling irresponsibility were to her the upper half. Tearful morality. Nietzsche is playing with the phrase comedy once a popular theatrical genre of the 18th century, introduced by Destus and later developed by Diderot. Origin of justice. Fairness originates among approximately equal powers as to see this is rightly understood. When there is no clearly recognized superior power, and a battle would lead to fruitless and mutual injury. One because to think of reaching an understanding and negotiating the initial character of justice is barterage, satisfies the other and each gives one he values more. Thus, justice is ranked vital and intimately on the assumption of equal strength. For this reason, Friedrich belongs to the realm of justice. It is an enchained likewise gratitude. Justice naturally goes back to self-preservation, that is to egoism. Why should I uselessly injure myself? Because men have forgotten the original purpose of so-called just action. It has gradually appeared that just action is a selfless one. The high esteem of this action rests on this appearance, and it keeps growing because men imitate one day admire how slaying the morality of the work would sing without forgetfulness. A poet could say that God has station for her fullness as a guardian on the door to the temple of human dignity. The arrival of the weaker, if one party, a city under siege, for example, submits under certain condition to a greater power. Its reciprocal condition is that this first party can destroy itself, burns the city, and thus make the power suffer a great loss. Thus there is a kind of equalization on the basis of which a right can be established. Preservation is to enemy advancing a right in sig between slaves and master to the same instinct exactly insofar as the possession of his slave is profitable and important to the master. The right originally extends as far as one appears to the other to be valuable in such permanent, invincible, and the like. In this regard, even the weaker has a right to they are more modest. Thus the famous dictum unus vios tatum juris habet conventu potentia valet, or more exactly quantum potentia valere creatur. The three phases of morality until now. The first, saying that an animal has become human, is that his behavior is no longer directed to his momentary comfort, but rather to his enduring comfort. That is when man becomes whose in experience, then for the first time the free rule of reason bursts forth. A still higher instinct is reached when man, and according to the principle of honor, by this he finds his place in society, submitting to common feelings. This raises him high about the phase in which he is guided only by personal openness. Now he shows and wants to be shown respect, and is he understands his advancing as dependent on his opinion of other and their opinion of him. Finally, on the highest stage of morality until now, he acts according to his own standard of things, and himself determines for himself and for other what is honorable, what is profitable. He has become the number of opinions in accordance with a more refined concept of wholesomeness and more honor. Acknowledge any individuals him to prefer what is most oops, that is general wholesomeness over personal openness, and to prefer the respectful recognition of what has common enduring value over thing of momentary value. He lives and acts as a collecting individual. Morality of the mature individual. Until now, man has taken the true sign of a moral answer to his personal nature, and it has been shown that is the beginning of all impersonal and well-placed and distinguished in respect to the common good, may not a significant transformation of these views be at hand now when we see with greater clarity that precisely in the most personal respect the common good is as the greatest, so that now it is precisely the strictly personal action which corresponds to the correct concept of morality as a common profit to make a whole person of oneself and keeping mind or that person's greatest good in everything one does this thing as farther than any beating impulses and answer for the sake of others. To be sure, we all still suffer from to slight a regard for our own personal need. It has been poorly developed. Let us admit that our mind has instinct being forcibly. Sorry, one moment please. Diverted from it and offered in sacrifice to the state, to science, to the needy, as if it were something bad that had to be sacrificed. Now too we wish to work for our fellow men, but only insofar as we find our own highest advantage in this work, no more, no less. It depends only on what one understands by his advantage. The immature, undeveloped group individual will also understand it most grouply. Ok, Okay, we're coming to the end. I hope we finish the book. Okay, take care of yourselves. Big hope. Head to kind of yourselves and see you tomorrow. Y nada. Goodbye.